was reborn, looking at the message from Ululu popping up on my phone, asking to meet. I was certain I had been reborn 1 week before the zombie outbreak. Just like in my previous life, I went to the milk tea shop as agreed. Here's 100,000 yuan. Post on your social media that you're breaking up with Su Rui of your own accord. Ululu, the most popular girl in the art school, had taken a liking to my boyfriend Su Rui and specifically called me out to discuss the breakup. This young lady has her own set of rules. According to her, she only pursues single men, so she insisted that I break up with Su Rui first before she would make her move on him, and this breakup fee was her compensation to me, or you could call it a reward, payment for clearing the path for her romantic pursuits. It has to be said, the wealthy sure know how to play their games. In my past life, I foolishly refused to break up and even boasted that Su Rui would never like her. As a result, after Su Rui found out he had caught the attention of the Yu family's young mistress, he broke up with me, even admitting that he had only pursued me in the first place because he lost a bet with his roommate and had actually wanted to break up with me for a long time. So, I lost my boyfriend and didn't even get any money out of it. To make matters worse, shortly after the breakup, a zombie outbreak hit the city, and I got trapped in the store where I was working part-time. After struggling for a week and starving to the point of desperation, I had no choice but to go out to find food, only to end up getting pounced on. After being bitten, my whole body felt feverish, my vision turned gray, and my consciousness gradually faded, perhaps a prelude to mutation, but I didn't mutate. Instead, when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to today. One-time offer of 200,000. Not only will I officially announce the breakup, but I can also take all the blame, say I fell for someone else, betrayed Su Rui, and craft an innocent image for your beloved. You be the one who came to save him. When the apocalypse comes, things like reputation and love are just decorations. Hoarding money and supplies is the real way to survive. Ululu frowned, her eyes filled with surprise and disdain. Do you think I look like an easy mark to you? That's too high. Fine. 100,000 it is. For someone like me who's been poor since childhood, 100,000 is still a lot of money. I immediately smiled, ready to backtrack, but then the young lady added, but the persona you mentioned sounds pretty good to me. Go ahead and draft the copy now. If I think it's fine, I'll transfer the money to you. Hehe, seems like I've hit the mark with her. Ululu loves to play around so much that the usual conquest games must have gotten stale for her. But if she can switch things up and play the role of a gentle, understanding flower soothing a pure-hearted hunk, becoming the salvation for the heartbroken Su Rui, she'd probably be more than happy to shell out some extra cash. I immediately drafted the breakup message. After she reviewed it, I first received a 50,000 yuan advance payment. Then, I broke up with Su Rui and went back and forth with him a few times based on the fabricated reasons. After she saw the chat logs, she transferred me another 50,000. Post it. You can make it visible to specific groups but only block family members. Same as before, let me check the groups first, then you can delete Su Rui. No need, there's no one I want to block. I clicked send directly. Aside from the apocalypse, it's also because family, to me, is just an identity. I have never experienced much love, so when Su Rui treated me well, I greedily wanted to grasp more warmth, to see what it truly feels like to be cared for. Who the hell is that guy? I never thought you could be so shameless. I should have dumped you long ago. Su Rui's text message popped up along with the bank transfer notification, so I simply blocked his number as well, setting it to intercept without any alerts. With only 7 days left to prepare, wasting even a second on him would be a disrespect to the apocalypse. After Ululu left, I downloaded a rental app. Our school had just lifted its lockdown, with only a curfew at night. Today being Saturday meant no other obligations, so I had to secure a place by the end of the day. The dormitory's limited space wouldn't last long. I needed to rent a place with enough storage, at least 3 bedrooms, preferably on the top floor. Not only would it be safer, but I could also make use of the rooftop. However, bigger isn't always better. First, the cost would be higher, and second, with time running short, ensuring security would be more challenging. If any oversight led to an intruder, the consequences could be worse than turning into a zombie. After some brief consideration, I randomly selected a few agents from the listings displayed in the software and asked them to help me find a suitable property. My school is in the city center, and the part-time job I do is at a store downtown. Remembering the chaos of the city center in my past life, I added another requirement: the property had to be in the suburbs, soon. All the agents replied to me. One of them, perhaps sensing that I was not short of money, recommended a top-floor apartment with a terrace, spanning 150 square meters and featuring 4 bedrooms. The terrace was a gift to the owner, not a public rooftop, making it safer and more convenient to use. After viewing the apartment, I was even more satisfied and secretly decided that after the apocalypse, I would buy one like this when I had the money. But the landlord's requirement was 1 month's rent as a deposit plus 3 months' rent in advance. Who would care about that when the apocalypse comes? Paying so much upfront is really unnecessary. I've never rented before, but several agents said this is standard practice, with some even requiring 6 months or a year's rent in advance. Paying 1 month's deposit plus 1 month's rent is mostly for short-term apartment rentals. So I tentatively proposed paying 2 months' rent upfront plus 1 month's deposit, and the other party readily agreed, straightforwardly admitting they were short on money due to the pandemic, promising to sign the contract the next day. Time was tight, so I didn't dwell on the extra money spent, silently praying that everything would go smoothly the next day. That night, I sat on the bed cramming knowledge about doomsday stockpiling, based on online supply lists. I roughly outlined the items I needed to prepare, only to realize that the 200,000 yuan wouldn't be nearly enough. In my previous life, the power went out on the 5th day of the zombie outbreak, and the water supply was cut on the 6th day. If I were to install a 3000 W solar power system, it might cost around 40,000 to 50,000 yuan. Adding the cost of reinforcing doors and windows, just estimating based on the set we saw today, nearly half of it is gone even before stocking up on food. So I went online and found some loan sharks to borrow 200,000 yuan. They were greedy for high interest and violated lending rules, while I took the loan to save lives. It's like helping them accumulate some good karma. Looking at the 400,000 yuan balance in my account, I felt like my phone had gotten noticeably heavier. After finishing all this, I pulled open the bed curtain and said to my roommate, "I heard they're going to lock down the campus again. Shouldn't you stock up on some food?" Having lived with them for 2 years, our relationship was neither good nor bad. Now that the apocalypse is imminent, I don't have the extra capacity to save them. All I can do is subtly remind them to prepare more supplies. Every extra day they can hold out counts. Really, day after day. When will this ever end? Who told you that? If they really lock down the campus, I'd better buy more snacks. Watching dramas just isn't the same without chips. Upon hearing my words, the dormitory immediately erupted into commotion. After responding briefly, I lowered the curtain again and continued tallying the items I needed to buy. Just as I picked up my phone, my mom sent me a WeChat message. First, she asked when I had started dating, then inquired about the guy's family background, whether Su Rui's family was wealthier or if this new flame I had shifted my affections to was richer. Let me think it over carefully. Don't be willful. When the holiday comes, I'll bring one home to see. If it's suitable, we'll settle the marriage. Ridiculous. Every bit of their concern always lands on something that's beneficial to them. I've long grown tired of this kind of familial affection. Back then, my father didn't agree to let me go to university. His exact words were, "It's not like you got into Tsinghua or Peking University. What's the point of going to some no-name college? Better to go out and earn money early." I don't know whether to be comforted that they still recognize the importance of education, or to grieve that they only allow the most outstanding individuals the right to choose. University A is also a prestigious institution, but unfortunately, in their perception, they've only heard of Tsinghua and Peking. Yet even for ordinary universities, shouldn't the students be allowed to make their own decisions? Tuition and living expenses, these can all be covered through student loans and part-time jobs. I refuse to believe poverty is any excuse. My brother is only 18 this year. He dropped out halfway through high school, already married with children, yet my parents see nothing wrong with it. On the contrary, they often take comfort in him having fulfilled the duty of continuing the family line. Perception determines everything. I replied, with the pandemic recurring. It's good to stock up on food and supplies at home. I have things to attend to, so I won't chat with you for now. In my previous life, I heard on the news that this crisis affected the entire country, with only some very remote mountain villages remaining untouched. Our village wasn't remote. On the contrary, it had convenient transportation. On the 5th day of my confinement, zombies appeared there as well, so I'm not planning to take the risk of going back, after all. My family's rural courtyard is quite old and might not hold up well, plus, with more people, resources would deplete faster, and my parents' personalities could easily lead to conflicts. I wouldn't want us to be brought down by infighting rather than the zombies. This time around, I just want to save my own life. As for others, I'll wish them luck. On Sunday morning, the rental procedures were smoothly completed. As soon as I got the access card, I contacted someone to install soundproof glass and a security door. As for the solar panels, who knows how long the approval process will take, and installing them directly would attract too much attention, so I paid the installation company extra to come back and install them in a few days. Once the zombie outbreak happens, the property management won't be able to do much about it anyway. Little girl, with glass this thick, you won't have to worry even if a war breaks out, a worker teased. I crossed my arms and lazily responded, imitating Ululu's aristocratic demeanor. The safety standards of these ordinary residential buildings are too low. I wouldn't be used to living here without some improvements. Perhaps sensing my disinterest in engaging with them, the workers stopped talking and went back to their work. I don't want to be arrogant either, but the more I say, the more mistakes I make. Better to just put on a show and muddle through. After the doors and windows were finished, I rushed to a nearby large supermarket and bought 4 commercial-sized freezers. When the store delivered the freezers to my home, I didn't let them install them, just said there was a problem with the shop and they'd be stored at home for now. After they left, I went to another supermarket farther away to stock up on supplies. 10 boxes of cup noodles in various flavors, 20 bundles of dried noodles, 50 bottles of sauces including Lao Gan Ma, 50 bags of pickled mustard and seasoning packs in various flavors, and 10 boxes of instant sausages. These are just a small part of the many things I need to buy, but few people usually shop like this. I had already prepared reasons to explain to the salesperson, but they just smiled and helped me load the items onto the prearranged Lalamove truck without asking a single question. The Lalamove driver, however, chatted with me the whole way and even enthusiastically offered to help carry the items upstairs for free. It took several polite refusals before he finally left. I don't know if it's because I'm too nervous, but I can't shake this feeling of unease. Monday, 5 days before the zombie outbreak. I skipped class that day and went to Metro to continue with my shopping plan. 5L cooking oil times 100 barrels. 5L purified water times 200 barrels, 500 milliliters purified water 24 bottles times 100 cases, 50 kilograms rice times 100 bags. Various beverages totaling 10 cases, 250 milliliters milk, 24 bottles per case times 10 cases, assorted bread, 10 cases, 50 pounds of beef, 50 pounds of pork, 30 chickens, 30 ducks, 50 fish, 100 pounds of ham, 100 pounds of sausages, 50 pounds of root and tuber vegetables in total, 50 pounds of cabbage, 10 pounds of other leafy greens, 50 pounds of assorted fruits, 5L soy sauce, 10 bottles, aged vinegar, 10 bottles, salt, 20 bags, and various seasonings, 50 bags, white sugar 500 g times 10 bags. Small block brown sugar 500 g times 10 bags. Sugar is like medicine. You may not need it, but you must have it. After all, in desperate times, it can sustain life better than any other food. Since there's simply too much stuff, I had to pile it downstairs first, then make multiple trips to carry everything into the house. However, when I finally finished transporting the goods and took inventory, I discovered that a barrel of oil and a box of milk were missing. Uncertain whether it was a mistake on the supermarket's end or if someone had taken advantage to steal. I didn't have time to check the surveillance footage. I could only buy a few extra black cloths during the next supply run to cover the goods and label them as hazardous materials. From Monday to Wednesday, I made 3 consecutive trips to Metro and finally managed to buy all the necessary food supplies. Some of the packages I ordered a few days ago also arrived. including a drone, walkie-talkies, a portable gas stove, self-heating pots, and disposable underwear. I just finished unpacking the package when my phone rang. It was a message from the counselor, Xiao Tong. I've received feedback from the teachers that you've been skipping classes frequently. Come to my office tomorrow at 7 p.m. to explain the situation. I instinctively tried to recall which building the counselor's office was in, only to realize I couldn't remember it all, but I didn't plan to go anyway. I dusted off my hands and replied, "Sorry, Professor Chin, I'm doing a part-time job outside. I'll return to class after finishing this week." Not long after, the academic advisor called. After confirming my personal safety wasn't at risk, he didn't say much else, only advising me to mentally prepare myself. If I failed the course, there was nothing he could do to help. Thursday, 2 days before the zombie outbreak, I've scheduled a technician to come and install solar panels. The terrace is about 100 square meters. Following the technician's advice, I opted to build a canopy with the solar panels installed on top of it. As this takes up the least space, I placed several large stainless steel bins with lids in the open area, some for storing supplies, others as trash bins. Additionally, I set up a few large basins to collect rainwater, and the remaining corners of the space are used for growing vegetables. Connecting the house and the terrace is a narrow stairwell. Just outside the stairs is a semi-enclosed space with a roof and walls. Open only on the side facing the terrace. Adding a sliding door would turn it into an independent compartment, perfect for setting up a simple dry toilet. This not only solves the problem of using the bathroom after the water supply is cut off but also eliminates the safety concerns of frequently appearing on the terrace, once back inside the house. Locking the stairwell door ensures the indoor air quality remains unaffected. After arranging all this, I went to the flower and bird market. By the time I returned with the humus soil and seeds, it was already past 9 p.m. After bringing the items home, I hurried to the courier station to pick up a package before it closed. This time there was quite a lot of stuff, so I borrowed the station's trolley and made 4 trips to get everything. There were 5 boxes of compressed biscuits, 4 boxes of snacks, 50 boxes of various canned meats, 50 packs of toilet paper, 1 box of sanitary pads, 5 boxes of wet wipes, 2 boxes of water purification tablets, 2 boxes of freeze-dried vegetables, 100 power banks, 1 water purifier, and some veterinary medicine. I've stocked up on common medicines that are available, but currently, City B has strict drug controls, especially for fever reducers. You can't buy them at all without a hospital prescription. All I have left is half a box of ibuprofen I bought previously for menstrual cramps, so I had no choice but to resort to this. Friday. The zombie outbreak will occur tomorrow at noon. Without any warning, biting incidents simultaneously appeared in multiple locations worldwide. When it first happened, some people online said it was a planned, poisoning attack. They didn't even bother disguising it as a natural plague, making it the most brazen terrorist attack in human history. I don't know how long this disaster will last, so I can only make as many preparations as possible before it happens. Early in the morning, I went to the supermarket and bought 2 electric heaters, 2 fans, and a small amount of daily necessities like shampoo. When I returned downstairs, a car happened to pull up just then. 2 men and 2 women got out of the car. Yululu was fair-skinned and tall. Although her outfit was completely different from the last time we met, I recognized my half-savior at a glance. She saw me too. "Xiao Tong, do you live here?" I calmly replied, "I'm here to clean for someone, and I'm just running some errands for them on the way." She looked thoughtful and said, "Seems like you're really short on money. We're having a gathering today and we'll need someone to clean up afterward. Would you be interested?" Who would have thought that despite Miss Yu's playful nature, she's actually quite kind-hearted? I shook my head and declined her kindness, citing work as the reason. As I pressed the elevator button, her voice rang out again. "What a coincidence. Your employer turns out to be my neighbor." Perhaps noticing my unsophisticated expression, she added, "This place was bought by my mom as an investment. It's been empty, and I only stay here occasionally for a few days." My heart tightened. Her few days probably included weekends. The little stuff they're carrying will definitely be gone by the time the gathering's over. The elevator stopped, and Yululu and the others stepped out first. I only entered the door lock password after they went inside. The one spacious room now looks like a warehouse, but I'm still worried it won't be enough to last until the disaster is over. I need to go out a few more times before it gets dark. I put down my things and was about to leave when a noise came from outside. Someone was knocking on my security door. Strangely, the person only knocked but didn't say a word. I peered through the peephole and saw a man wearing a black mask, holding a bouquet of pink roses in his arms. I'd recognize those eyes even if they turned to ashes. Why the hell is Sue Roy here? What's the meaning of this act? He stood outside my door for a while, then went over to knock on Ululu's door. When the door opened, he handed the flowers to Ululu. The others were chatting and laughing, but Ululu alone wore an unhappy expression. It was unclear what she said, but after speaking, she turned and went back inside. While Sue Roy was shoved out by the two guys, looks like Miss Yu has lost interest in him, but he's still desperately chasing after her. But it hasn't even been a week, and Ululu has already pursued him and then dumped him. The whims of the wealthy are truly beyond my comprehension. I suspect Sue Roy followed Ululu here just now. He only knew she came up to this floor but wasn't sure which unit she lived in. Then he must have seen me too, to prevent him from discovering the stockpile here. I'd better not go out. After confirming he entered the elevator, I took out the iron chain to lock both the stairwell door and my security door, then collapsed onto the couch, 2/3 of which was occupied by cardboard boxes, entering my preemptive lounging mode. At lunchtime, I stewed half a chicken and cooked a handful of thin noodles, watching a show while sipping soup. I hadn't felt this leisurely in ages. After drinking the chicken soup, I realized that half the things in the house were funded by Lulu, so I still sent her a message. I just finished cleaning and saw an ambulance entering the neighborhood. Not sure what's going on, but if you don't want to be locked down, you should come home to stay. If possible, stock up on more supplies. No one can predict how things will unfold these days. This was the only way I could trick her. I could have just told her outright that a zombie outbreak was imminent and time was running out. I wasn't afraid of being taken for a lunatic, but I held back. She will definitely share this news with her family. Even though this young lady is inherently kind-hearted, I dare not overestimate the humanity of shrewd merchants in times of chaos. Ululu didn't reply to me, probably having too much fun, and didn't check the phone. At 11 a.m. on Saturday, there was about an hour left before the human biting human video appeared online. I peeked through the peephole and happened to see a few of Ululu's friends leaving. The young lady yawned, waved at them, and then closed the door again. Not long after, my phone rang. Really, my friends just left, so I'll freshen up and head out too. Thanks. She actually took the advice. I had just breathed a sigh of relief when a scream came from downstairs. It was a group of people screaming, the sound penetrating the soundproof glass and reaching inside the house. I rushed to the windowsill to check the situation. A man in a suit was gnawing at an old man's neck, blood splattering all over the ground. People fleeing in all directions were also covered in blood. Whether from being splattered or injured was unclear. Zombies had appeared. It seems the suburbs didn't fall into panic any later just because there were fewer people after biting someone. The man in the suit stood motionless on the spot. Just like in the previous life, zombies would calm down for a while after each frenzy, with varying durations. This period was the perfect opportunity to subdue him. By the time the police arrived, the suited man was still in his standby state and was handcuffed and taken into the police car. The elderly man who had collapsed was also carried away on a stretcher. The neighborhood temporarily returned to calm, but I'm not at peace here. The security door was banged, this time accompanied by the sound of a chain being yanked. Xiao Tong, open the door. It was Sue Roy again. Why is he here again? Through the peephole, he's dressed the same as yesterday, except there are 3 fresh, bleeding wounds on his arm, and the door across the hallway remains tightly shut. You just broke up with me, and then you guy immediately starts chasing me. So you two planned this to mess with me. Stop playing dead. I saw you downstairs. Got the guts to trick me but not to face me. It's impressive that he still has the energy to worry about the situation upstairs after being scratched by a zombie. Too bad. When I installed the soundproof glass, I also applied a privacy film. He's just trying to trick me, and judging by the sound of the door banging, he's pretty pissed off, probably couldn't find you Lulu and is taking it out on me instead. I'm not sure what happened between him and Miss You. But one thing is certain, if the door is opened, the outcome will definitely be disastrous. I stood guard all night yesterday, and you never came out. Open the door for me, I know you're in there. Seeing his persistence, I had no choice but to decline his kindness. Cold noodles, I don't like cold noodles. Bang bang bang. He finally responded to me with 3 loud bangs, threw out the words, "You just wait," and stepped into the elevator. I'm afraid I won't live to see his revenge. Because before tonight is over, he'll turn into a zombie. Zombies have no human consciousness. No matter how much enmity lies between us, it won't matter anymore. Su Rui had just left when Lulu sent a message. Are you still here? With all the commotion Su Rui made, she must have heard it. As I was thinking about how to reply, she added, my dad sent someone to pick me up, want to come along. Touched as I was, I politely declined and urged her to quickly gather supplies. After the earlier incident, I actually had to think of a reason, but she didn't ask much, only feeling that my reminder was very appropriate. Half an hour later, a black car appeared downstairs, and 4 men in black suits entered the building. Before long, Miss Yu was surrounded by 4 bodyguards and escorted into the car. I never thought I'd witness a scene I'd only seen in movies today. Nothing but envy left in my heart. By evening, discussions about zombies had flooded the internet. Opening the comments section of any random video would reveal people debating the topic. Supermarkets and convenience stores were completely looted. Some shop owners simply closed their doors and moved their entire families into their stores. However, the videos were deleted as soon as they were posted. Like me, those who happened to see them frantically begged in the comments of the uploaders' other videos to sell them some supplies. Eventually, the account was set to private. Perhaps because zombie-themed fiction is quite common, people adapted to the idea of a zombie outbreak relatively quickly. Rather than questioning the authenticity of the event, more chose to err on the side of caution and rapidly stockpiled supplies. After scrolling through videos for a while and seeing mostly the same content, I tossed my phone aside and went to the balcony to water the seeds I had planted the day before. I first planted radishes, chives, tomatoes, and potatoes. The radishes grew quickly, and after sprouting, the seedlings could be eaten in one go, while the rest were left to continue growing. Chives can be harvested multiple times after a single planting. They're a great crop. As for potatoes and tomatoes, since they take several months to mature, they serve as reserve vegetables. Once they're ready, you can either store them or eat them. After watering the plants, I noticed an unread message from my younger brother. Sis, you've seen the news online. Right, the factory hasn't paid wages this month. Can you lend me 2,000 yuan? I need to buy a ticket home. Just like in my previous life, the first message I received from family after the zombie outbreak was my younger brother asking to borrow money. The second message from family was my mother telling me that my brother had boarded a flight home but then lost contact, asking me to help find out what happened. Of course, I didn't have such extraordinary abilities, even when I was bitten. I still didn't know whether he was alive or dead. In my past life, I didn't have extra money to lend him. I don't know where he got the money for the ticket. Maybe he wasn't short on cash and was just used to taking. This time, there's still money in my account, but I don't want to lend it. Sis, I'm even poorer than you. I haven't eaten since lunch and I'm starving. Can you send me some money for food? 10 yuan is fine. And then he never replied to me again. May 8th, day 3 of the zombie outbreak. My mom's message arrived on time. I replied, Mom, it's not safe outside. I want to come home too, but can you give me some money for the trip? Just when I thought she would disappear like my brother, she transferred 500 yuan to me. I was stunned. Was this her way of showing concern? Immediately after, she said, I don't know how your brother is doing. You need to be careful, otherwise, your dad and I don't know how we'll live our lives. The orange transfer notification and this message left me with mixed feelings. After a moment of silence, I returned the transfer and told her to immediately buy food and supplies, as much as she could, then lock the door and not open it for anyone, whether relatives or friends. After sending this message, I deleted my dad's, mom's, and younger brother's WeChat contacts. If I survive this crisis, I hope we never contact each other again. May 10th, the 5th day of the zombie outbreak. As expected, the power went out, right after the class advisor reminded everyone in the group chat to use their phones less and conserve battery. Someone offered to buy power banks at high prices, while another proposed trading 15 minutes of charging time for a can of Wangzai milk. No one paid attention to the high-price buyer. But the barter for power offer got tagged by many. Someone in the dorm group chat mentioned me. It was my roommate across the room. Tong Tong, where are you now? Are you okay? I replied, safe for now. She asked again, a few days ago, when I picked up the package for you, I noticed on the slip that it seemed to be a power bank. Could you lend it to us for a while? Both Dolan's and my phones are almost out of battery, accompanied by a pleading emoji when I bought supplies. I also got some for my roommate. I've been so busy these past few days that I almost forgot about it, so I replied, I won't be back for a while. You can take the power bank and those 2 boxes of food for now to tide you over. The group chat was active for a moment, then everyone turned off their phones again. After finishing the conversation with my roommate, I got up and washed all the clothes, sheets, and duvet covers that had piled up over the past few days. Although the balcony is stacked with many large basins storing plenty of water, it's unlikely we'll be able to afford using water so freely in the days to come. As night fell, the downstairs area was even quieter than yesterday. Most of the apartments in the complex have lights on. I wonder if those lights will still be on tomorrow, or the day after. Even though I have blackout curtains, I didn't dare turn on the lights. I only used my phone's flashlight. So it should look no different from the other residents. For the next 3 days, the complex remained very quiet. There were no zombies, and no one entered or left. I finished watching Chinese Paladin 1 and have now started Chinese Paladin 3. This morning, there was a heavy rain that left the radish seedlings battered and bent. By the afternoon when I checked again, they had straightened up and seemed even greener. In a few more days, they'll be ready for stir-frying at night. The heat made it impossible to sleep, and even turning on the fan didn't help. City B is hot and rainy, making air conditioning an essential appliance, but during this special period, I'm hesitant to turn it on. Helpless, I had to step out onto the balcony for some fresh air. The moonlight tonight is exceptionally bright, so clear that you can even distinctly see the Jeep driving in now. A man and a woman got off the vehicle and started moving supplies into the apartment building across the street. On the early morning of the 9th day since the zombie outbreak, some people began to lose their grip. The more people go out to search for supplies, the more chaos intensifies. During the day, it was mentioned in the school group chat that the military has already started delivering food to kindergartens, primary and secondary schools, and universities, followed by hospitals and shopping malls. Perhaps because residential buildings are more likely to have reserves, the aid arrives a bit later. At the crack of dawn, I was jolted awake by a piercing scream. I must have dozed off in the rocking chair at some point. The window left open. The sound startled me so much that I jerked upright, lost my balance, and tumbled to the floor. As I scrambled to my feet to investigate, I saw a long-haired woman lying in a pool of blood on the lawn. Not far from her, a man was crouched over as if gnawing on something. When he lifted his head, a child's severed arm dangled from his mouth. Screams erupted from several nearby buildings, only to be abruptly cut short. Then, as if on cue, everyone drew their curtains shut. At dawn, I saw an old woman wielding a kitchen knife run out of the building where people were moving supplies. While the male zombie was idle, she slashed his forehead with the knife, and the zombie collapsed like a machine that had lost power. The old woman, also affected by the impact, fell to the ground, her arms limp at her sides. She struggled a few times but still found it difficult to move. At that moment, the blood-covered woman pulled the kitchen knife from the zombie's head. After saying something to the old woman, she raised the knife and struck herself. They were likely the couple who had gone out to search for supplies yesterday. The man, after being injured, turned into a zombie and attacked his wife and child. To avoid becoming a zombie herself, the woman chose to end her own life. The scene was too bloody. I really couldn't eat anything, so I just hastily made a packet of lotus root starch to settle my stomach. By the afternoon, my stomach felt even worse, and I was completely groggy. I couldn't even focus on watching a show. I took my temperature, 38.2 degrees Celsius. I usually consider myself to have a strong constitution. But perhaps I caught a chill last night, and then being so upset on top of that was just too much for me to handle at once. I dug out that half-empty box of ibuprofen and took one with warm water. To ease the stomach pain, I forced myself to nibble on a piece of bread before burying myself under the covers to sleep. When I woke up, the fever had subsided, but my whole body felt sticky and unbearably uncomfortable, so I boiled 3 large pots of water on the induction cooker and took my second hot bath since the zombie outbreak. On the 12th day of the zombie outbreak, Jing Tian collapsed in the snow. No one knew what deal he had struck with the Heavenly Emperor, but he ended up saving all the people. The neighborhood finally welcomed its first batch of saviors. A military truck drove into the community. Soldiers in protective gear shot the wandering zombies and then distributed food to the residents. Low-rise buildings relied on manual transport, while drones were used for high-rises. At the same time, someone was shouting through a loudspeaker, "Everyone, if you encounter zombies, hide if you can. If you can't hide, attack their heads. No matter who the zombie was to you, don't hold back. They have lost their human consciousness, and being soft-hearted will only harm yourself." At the same time, the government is establishing safe zones, and we will arrange for everyone to go there as soon as possible. During this waiting period, stay indoors, conserve your energy. We will not abandon anyone, and everyone will surely get through this crisis. These words were indeed very encouraging. Many people wiped away tears, and a hint of determination appeared in their desperate expressions. The aid arrived faster than I had anticipated, if not for the subsequent turn of events. I would have thought that the stockpiled supplies would last through only a third of the crisis before it was resolved. June 18th, the 43rd day of the zombie outbreak. Somehow, a breach occurred, and multiple zombies appeared in the safe zone. Moreover, the mutation speed of those bitten was much faster than before. Some even turned in less than 5 minutes. In just 2 hours, the safe zone became a disaster area. All efforts were in vain, and after a glimmer of hope, the entire city plunged back into an endless night. Even though they knew most citizens couldn't access the news, the government still insisted on broadcasting updates whenever possible. I believe they were doing their utmost to maintain even the slightest semblance of order in this society. I had just come back from harvesting a bunch of chives when I saw this news, planning to stir-fry them with eggs. I also thought a piece of beef, intending to stew a beef and radish soup, then enjoy it with my secret dipping sauce. In my tablet, Shenhuan had just returned to the palace. I deliberately didn't download the episode set at Gonla Temple, and after watching the part where Wanwan resembles Qing, I went to cook. Everything was ready, just waiting to eat, but my appetite vanished the moment I saw the news. At night, a horde of zombies flooded into the neighborhood, appearing more alert and ferocious than the previous ones. Some of them crashed into the windows on the first floor, while others lingered inside the building without coming out, likely drawn by the scent of the living. After one night, the number of zombies in the neighborhood had visibly increased. Perhaps I was the only living person left in the entire complex. Bang! The sound of doors being rammed, the door in the stairwell. I live on the 20th floor, and zombies actually climbed up here. Every time I heard a thud, my heart would tremble. It wasn't until the sound disappeared that I realized my back was drenched in sweat. Judging by the zombies downstairs, they don't seem to have gained consciousness. The one banging on the door must have just wandered up here by chance. As for why it stopped banging, perhaps after falling and getting back up, it changed its direction of movement, or maybe the chain caught on its clothes, altering its course in the struggle. I comfort myself with imagination. July 2nd. The 57th day of the zombie outbreak. After that sweep, the number of zombies fluctuated. Sometimes none at all, like tonight. As far as the eye could see, everything was pitch black, the entire neighborhood silent as a vast grave. The latest message in the dorm group chat remains from the day my roommate across the bed borrowed my power bank. News has also been scarce for a long time. Living comfortably in this apocalyptic world, I feel like I'm in a parallel universe, observing the misery of the neighboring world through thick glass. But the newly planted Shanghai greens on the balcony have sprouted, and the previously planted tomatoes, potatoes, and radishes are thriving. After all, there's still some hope to be seen. I continue binge-watching shows, reading novels, eating, and sleeping. After finishing my own Swordsman, I move on to iPartment. after reading the 4 great classical novels. I dive into the CEO falls in love with me. When my eyes get tired, I get up to stretch and plan my next meal. Another month passed like this. My little garden grew even more vibrant. The tomatoes bore fruit, the radishes were ready to harvest, and while watering, I even discovered 2 sunflower seedlings just beginning to sprout leaves. Perhaps I accidentally mixed in some uncracked sunflower seeds when I threw away fruit peels a while ago, when they bloom into sunflowers. Will the apocalypse end? August 7th, the beginning of autumn. Day 93 of the zombie outbreak. It started raining in the morning, cleared up briefly at noon, and then continued to rain. Seeing that the rain wouldn't stop anytime soon, I took the opportunity to clean the dry toilet. As the rainwater washed everything away, the fertilizer flowed out through the drain, leaving no lingering odor. Fertilizing the vegetables is good, but I'm still worried the smell might attract zombies. After all, it's human waste. Who knows if the stench of feces might. In the zombies' perception, round up to the smell of humans. Just as I finished cleaning up, a few zombies showed up downstairs, and their movements were noticeably much slower. Previously, the zombies' speed wasn't affected by rain, so what's going on now? As walking corpses, they shouldn't need to replenish energy, right? Could it be that the toxicity of the zombie virus has weakened over time? Back in the house, I took a hot shower and then brewed some ginger tea to drink. The sweet and spicy warm soup settled in my stomach, and I felt much more refreshed. The rain fell intermittently for 5 days. They say that with each autumn rain, the weather gets colder, but after the rain stopped, the temperature, which had finally dropped, rose again. I found a few thin iron rods from the materials left over when I installed the solar panels, built a trellis, and planted peas. In the area where I had planted bok choy, I also scattered some spinach and fennel seeds. Autumn in City B is brief, with only about a month of transition between late October and late November. Thanks to the long summer, my vegetable garden can yield a few more harvests. After finishing my work, I cut 1/3 of a watermelon, grilled a fish, and made a cold noodle dish with shredded chicken to treat myself. This crisis has elevated my cooking skills by at least 2 levels. August 18th. Day 104 of the zombie outbreak. A green military truck arrived in the neighborhood. It had only been 3 months since I last saw a similar vehicle, yet it felt like a lifetime ago. Unlike before, this time the carriage was empty, with only a few oversized bags inside. The protective suits worn by those people were also different from last time, making their movements even more awkward. As soon as they got off the vehicle, several zombies emerged from some corner and began walking toward them. Yes, walking. Compared to the male zombie that bit off its own child's arm, they seemed like the weak and disabled among the undead. Several people calmly shot the zombies in the head one by one, then left only one person to bag the zombies and toss them into the truck, while the others split into pairs and scattered in different directions. Each pair had one person holding a long-handled device, probing ahead. Suddenly, one of the devices beeped, and the next second, a rat darted out from the nearby grass. I see, they're detecting living creatures, so this is a real rescue mission, not just a rushed food delivery. I quickly put the t-shirt on the broom and waved it out the window. After a while, there was a knock on the door from the stairwell. Looking out through the crack in the door, I saw 2 soldiers standing there. I invited them into the house, and through the transparent visors on their protective suits, I could see their incredulous expressions. Heh. I originally planned to open a supermarket, but who knew zombies would suddenly break out? It just so happened to come in handy. I handed them wet wipes and bottled water, suggesting they take off their protective suits to get some air, but they only opened a small gap. Is the crisis about to be over? One shook their head, while the other nodded. Their mixed reactions confused me, and I asked anxiously, did something unexpected happen again? The 2 exchanged glances, and one of them said, "You must have noticed that the zombies' combat effectiveness has significantly declined, and some of the earlier mutated ones have even collapsed on their own. This is because the zombie virus, after depleting the nutrients in the brain and blood, loses its activity. If it can't find a new host, its demise is inevitable. But those zombies that were shot in the head can't be considered dead either. They're just unable to move due to the destruction of their brain tissue. We'll send the bodies to be incinerated, and that's when they truly perish." However, whether the zombie virus still lingers in the soil, animals, or water sources remains unknown. So, humans didn't defeat the zombies. It was the laws of nature that saved us. Then, was the initial zombie outbreak caused by someone poisoning, or was it nature's revenge? Another one spoke up. Anyway, we're safe for now. Once we clear out all the zombies, the next step will be post-disaster reconstruction. I see your setup here is even more complete than in the safe zone, so we won't take you there. If it's convenient, could we send a few people your way? Send people. The young soldier wiped the sweat from his face, staring at me with eager eyes. We currently have 3 tasks: clearing out the zombies, rescuing people, and finding supplies. Everyone has only had a bite of dry ration since last night. Just now, when I saw a rat, I felt like I was looking at meat. Another person tried to stop him twice, but the young man still insisted on finishing his words with tears in his eyes. To be honest, I'm not too keen on taking in survivors. The future is still uncertain. What if another disaster strikes? Moreover, there's no guarantee of the character of those we might take in. As the saying goes, I don't dare to gamble on human nature. Yet, human nature is multifaceted after all. For example, these people before me endure suffering and hunger to save others. Not because they are bound by their identity as soldiers, but because of the kindness in their bones. I nodded and said, sure. The teary-eyed young man happily patted another's arm and said, Old Woo, show her the list, sis, see if you recognize anyone, and we'll prioritize bringing your family and friends over. The one called Old Woo glared at him and said, you're always overthinking things. I hadn't expected such a maneuver was possible, and couldn't help but tease. Who are you calling, sis? Old Woo explained, this is my nephew. He's only 16, he's been restless since he was a kid. Excuse him. Hearing that, how could I still smile? Only heartache and admiration remained. In the end, I took in a mother and son, a woman in her 40s, and Ululu. Ululu was the one I chose. The others were randomly assigned to me. When I saw Ululu's name on the survivor list, I felt an inexplicable emotion, akin to the joy of finally spotting a fellow human in the neighborhood after months of solitary living. The refined Miss Yu, now disheveled by the apocalypse, made bathing her first priority upon arrival. While Ululu was showering, Sister Chin, who was taking care of a child, cautiously asked if her son could use Ululu's leftover water for a bath. My heart ached as I listened. The balcony has stored quite a bit of water, and it's the rainy season now, so there's still water for showers. Let's take turns. I'll go heat some water for everyone. Sister Chin was moved to excitement. Young lady, you rest. I can heat the water myself. No need for anyone to trouble themselves. I'll do it. I used to work in housekeeping. I can tidy up while heating the water. You all should tend to the kids or get some rest. Sister Luo waved at us and turned toward the kitchen. I smiled sheepishly. The house was indeed quite messy. Living alone before, I hadn't paid much attention to it. Tonight's dinner was exceptionally sumptuous. Sister Luo's cooking skills were beyond reproach. Sister Chin made her signature braised fish. I prepared my self-created simple fruit tea, while Ululu provided us with moral support from the sidelines with Kong Kong. Who would have thought we could still have hot meals and drinks at a time like this? Zhao Tong, you must have saved the world in your past life to be this lucky. Ululu gulped down some fruit tea, sighing repeatedly. I half-jokingly said, maybe I suffered too much in my previous life, so I'm being taken care of in this one. If it weren't for your generous sponsorship, miss, I wouldn't have thought of opening a shop. I uniformly told everyone that I was stocking up on supplies because I was going to open a shop. Perhaps because the zombies had exhausted their energy, no one ever doubted me. As night fell, we allocated our sleeping spots. Aside from the master bedroom, the landlord had only placed a bed in one of the secondary bedrooms. After moving some items, it could accommodate people, so it was left for Sister Chin and Kong Kong. The living room had 2 long sofas. Ululu, suffering from post-apocalyptic syndrome, dared not go home alone, so she also stayed here at night. Sister Luo and she each took one. However, in the middle of the night, Ululu quietly slipped into my room with her quilt. I wasn't asleep and curiously observed her every move. But she merely lay down at the foot of my bed. What's wrong? I suddenly spoke up, startling her so much that she was still panting heavily for quite a while. Big Sister Luo snores. I can't sleep, the floor is hard. How about, you sleep with me? I don't mind, thanks, but I'm not used to sharing a bed with others. Alright, I continued to rest with my eyes closed, and before long, the young lady's tentative voice sounded, Xiao Tong, your bed doesn't seem that small after all. I sighed and moved aside a bit, perhaps it was because we drank too much fruit tea. After lying down for half an hour, neither of us could fall asleep, so we ended up chatting instead. I asked her why Su Rui had gone to her place looking for her, and she replied with utter disdain. Him, so cringe, I chased him for 3 days. And he still played hard to get, so I just gave up. Then he showed up at my place on his own and even confessed in front of my friends, thinking it was so romantic. Pfft, who does he think I am, falling for such cheap tricks? I sighed inwardly, realizing once again that girls truly need to be raised in wealth, because I was that poor girl who fell for Su Rui's cheap tricks. September 1st. The 118th day of the zombie outbreak. News broadcasts have started resuming, albeit irregularly. But it's better than nothing. As a child, I never liked watching the news, but now I understand. It was actually a symbol of the nation's stability. In the news, I saw an interview with a young boy from a military family who had aspired to serve his country since childhood, passionately sharing his ideals on camera. 6-year-old Kong Kong stared at the phone screen, his eyes filled with admiration. Those eyes, I remember them, belonged to old Wu's nephew. As the number of people increased, everyone worried about food shortages, so except for the first night's dinner, meals were kept frugal. We ate only twice a day. Lunch was a simple bowl of noodles, and dinner was a pot of mixed stew, with each person scooping some rice to eat from the pot. Currently, food and water aren't issues. The biggest problem is the toilet. The dry toilet's waste container isn't large and needs to be cleaned every 3 or 4 days, while the risk of attracting zombies is minimal now. My little vegetable garden can't handle it, so we unanimously decided to make use of Lulu's house. Sister Luo, who is both physically strong and quick-witted, used storage containers to make 2 dry toilets and placed one in each bathroom. These 2 big containers should last a long time. Just make sure Kong Kong doesn't fall in. Not that he'd drown, but washing him clean would be a nightmare. As she spoke, she pointed at little Kong Kong, scaring the child so much his eyes turned red. He bit his lower lip, afraid to cry out loud. Sister Chen hugged Kong Kong and coaxed him for a few moments, then showed a lonely smile. We were attacked by zombies on the way to the countryside. His father jumped into the lake with a zombie, so I can't bear to hear those 2 words. After spending these days together, it was the first time I heard someone talk about their experiences in the apocalypse, and everyone fell silent for a moment. Sister Luo said with a face full of apology, Girl, I'm clumsy with words, and what I said wasn't pleasant to hear. I'm really sorry. You and your child are lucky. You can still rely on each other in the future. Unlike me, my whole family is gone, and I'm just an old woman left. How do you think I survived? Several people looked at her simultaneously. Sister Luo wiped her face with her palm and sniffled. Do you know what human piss tastes like? My stomach churned, and I quickly spoke up to stop her. Sister, I really sympathize with you. But we don't need to go into detail about this part. Surprisingly, the delicate Miss Yu was much calmer than me at that moment. Your families all want you to live. That's so much better than my situation. Her phoenix eyes were filled with indifference. My dad started stockpiling supplies 2 years ago. I could have weathered this crisis as safely as you did. She glanced at me and continued, but he has 3 other sons, born to 3 different women outside. Who knows which one, or maybe all of them, gossip behind my back. As long as I'm alive, my mother would claim his assets in my name. The ridiculous part is he actually wavered and kicked me out. I forgot to mention, my parents divorced long ago, but they've been fighting over property for years. My dad is shrewd. He didn't marry any of those 3 women, yet he made each of them think they had a chance to become his official wife, which also led to years of drama. After saying this, she took a deep breath and forced a smile. Anyway, we're still alive, aren't we? And we still have vegetables to plant. Right, let's get to work. I had 1 bag of humus soil left, since I needed to set aside more pots for water storage. I didn't plant too many vegetables. It worked out perfectly to carve out a small vegetable plot on the terrace of Lulu's house. October 26th. The 173rd day of the zombie outbreak was Kong Kong's 7th birthday. I gave him the drone I had bought before the outbreak. Never thought this thing would come in handy as a birthday gift, thinking it was a rare chance to splurge. Sister Luo prepared a table full of dishes. Lulu finally stepped into the kitchen and made a cake without eggs for Kong Kong. She can't cook, but she's learned baking, and the cake she made looked so exquisite that it moved the sentimental Sister Chin to tears. After the toilet was moved to Lulu's place, the air quality on the terrace improved significantly, so we relocated to enjoy an open-air lunch. As the weather turned cooler, most vegetables began to wither, leaving the wind-swayed sunflowers as the sole scenic highlight. The sunflower plant had grown as tall as Kong Kong, and its flower head had darkened a bit more. I wonder if we'll get to enjoy its seeds before the cold sets in completely. After setting the table, I suggested we take a group photo to remember the occasion. But just as I raised my phone, multiple notifications popped up at the top. The words were so exciting that everyone in the frame, after a brief moment had tears in their eyes. The first one read, "The nationwide zombie clearance is complete. The apocalypse is finally over. Let us remember." Kong Kong slowly lowered his victory sign and quietly asked Sister Chin, "Mom, why aren't we taking photos anymore?" Sister Chin bit her lip without speaking. Sister Luo was the first to break the silence with a hoarse voice. "Take them. This is exactly the moment we should capture for remembrance." Lulu gently traced the corner of her eye with her index finger. "Exactly." I wiped the screen and raised my phone again. "Okay."